From your first breath, you have been taught a lie so fundamental and so omnipresent that you have mistaken it for the truth, a lie that is the foundation of all your suffering, all your struggle, and all your frustration. The lie is this: that effort is the key to success. We have been indoctrinated into the cult of effort. Fight for your dreams, chase your goals, work hard. And so, we have spent our lives pushing, forcing, fighting against the current of life, believing that the force of our will is what bends reality. But what if I told you that you've been pushing with all your might on a door that only opens inward? What if the very act of trying was the reason you weren't getting what you desired? What you are about to hear is the knowledge of the great inversion, the most paradoxical, most hidden, and most powerful law of creation, the law of reversal. This audiobook won't teach you to work harder. It will teach you to stop fighting. It won't give you new techniques to chase your dreams. It will reveal why you must stop chasing them so that they at last can catch up to you. You will learn to manifest from surrender, to create from certainty, and to receive from wholeness. We will dismantle one by one the myths of force to reveal the silent power of flow. Get ready to unlearn everything you thought you knew about power. Chapter 1. The Cult of Effort. To walk this new path, we must first dismantle the cathedral in which we have been indoctrinated. We must examine with implacable honesty the silent religion of our era. We must talk about the Maudie cult of effort. No reward without sacrifice. Success requires hard work. No pain, no gain. Perseverance overcomes all obstacles. If at first you don't succeed, try and try again. These maxims are not just simple advice. They are the dogmas of a faith so omnipresent that we do not recognize it as such, so normalized that its commandments seem like self-evident, immutable truths, like the law of gravity. We have been taught to revere struggle, to glorify sacrifice, and to see exhaustion as a badge of honor. We believe that life is a battle, that the universe is an indifferent or even hostile adversary, and that our only path to victory is through a Herculean willpower, through incessant effort that bends the resistance of reality. And this belief, this cult, is the fundamental cause of our unhappiness and our mediocrity, because it keeps us rowing furiously against a current that, if we would only surrender to it, would carry us to our destination with a grace and speed that we could never achieve by force. The genealogy of struggle. Where does this cult come from? This paradigm was not born out of nowhere. It is a legacy, a program installed in our collective psyche through centuries of conditioning. The religious and philosophical roots. In many traditions, the idea of original sin, or a primordial fall, installed the belief that life on earth is a punishment, a veil of tears that we must endure with effort and sacrifice to, perhaps, earn a reward in the afterlife. Work was not an expression of divine creativity, but a condemnation. By the sweat of your brow you will eat your food. The Protestant ethic, with its emphasis on hard work and austerity as signs of divine election, solidified this idea at the heart of Western culture. The Industrial Revolution and the Time Equation. The Industrial Revolution was the great accelerator of this cult. For the first time in human history, a person's value was directly equated with the hours they spent in a factory. Time became money, and effort was measured in sweat, in output, in the ability to treat one's own body as a machine. We inherited this industrial software and applied it to all areas of our lives, believing that the quantity of hours we invest in something is directly proportional to the quality of the outcome. Social Darwinism. Finally, a popular misinterpretation of Darwin's theory of evolution gave us the scientific justification for the struggle. The idea of survival of the fittest was taken out of its biological context and applied to human society, creating a paradigm of ruthless competition. Life became a jungle where only the strongest, the most aggressive, those who struggle the most, survive and prosper. These three great currents, the theology of sacrifice, the mechanics of industry, and the biology of competition, have converged to create the central dogma of our era. Life is a struggle, and only through effort can you win. The neurochemistry of the addiction to effort. This cult is not just an idea, it is an addiction. Our body and our brain become chemically addicted to the cycle of struggle. When we face a challenge and overcome it through effort, Our brain rewards us with a surge of dopamine. It is a powerful drug that makes us feel good, that gives us a sense of achievement. And like any drug, we want more. We start seeking bigger and bigger challenges, setting more and more difficult goals for ourselves, not necessarily for the value of the achievement itself, but to get our next dose of the chemistry of triumph. Furthermore, constant struggle keeps us in a state of low-grade stress, with a chronic production of cortisol and adrenaline. This cocktail, while toxic in the long run, can in the short term feel like being alive, like having energy, like being in the heat of battle. We become addicted to the intensity of drama, to the feeling of being the hero who fights against all odds. Peace and calm for the stress addict feels strangely boring, almost like a death. This addiction is what prevents us from seeing the truth of the law of reversal. We have mistaken the euphoria of struggle for the true joy of creation. The mediocrity of effort. Why struggle doesn't work if effort were the key. The people who work the hardest would be the richest and the happiest, and often we see that this is not the case. The cult of effort, paradoxically, often leads to mediocrity. Why? Just because it drains your creative resources. True creativity, inspiration, genius are not born from a stressed and exhausted mind. They are born from play, from relaxation, from space, from silence. By living in a state of constant effort, you remain in a state of high-frequency beta brain waves, the state of the analytical and survival mind. In this state, it is impossible to access alpha and theta waves, the states of the subconscious mind, where creative solutions and quantum leaps reside. You become very good at solving the same problems in the same way, but you lose the ability to see a completely new solution, because it makes you blind to shortcuts. When you are rowing with all your might against the current, all your attention is focused on the effort, on the next stroke. Your head is down. You don't have the perspective to see that perhaps just 10 meters to your right, there is a side current that would take you to your destination with a tenth of the effort. Effort makes you blind to grace, because it emits the wrong vibration. The universe, as we already know, is a mirror. It responds to your state of being. When you operate from effort, your state of being is one of struggle. Your vibration is one of, this is difficult, I have to force it. Life is a battle. And the universe, which is an obedient servant, proves you right. It presents you with more obstacles, more resistance, more reasons to struggle. Struggle becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The first practice, the effort fast. The first act of rebellion is not to do something new, but to stop doing what is destroying you. You must begin with a fast from unnecessary effort. Identify your main struggle. You take your journal, and with brutal honesty, you identify the area of your life where you are applying the most effort and getting the least results. Is it in your career, in a relationship, in your health? The vow of the pause. And in that specific area, and only there for now, you make a vow. For the next 7 days, you commit to stopping the pushing. You don't abandon your responsibilities, but you abandon the energy of the struggle. If it's at your job, you stop staying late just to look busy. You do your job with excellence, and then you go home. If it's in a relationship, you stop trying to convince the other person, trying to fix it. You simply show up with authenticity and observe. This fast is profoundly uncomfortable. Your mind, addicted to effort, will scream that you are lazy, that everything will fall apart. This is withdrawal. Your only job is to observe this panic without reacting, and to remain in the stillness of your vow. The second practice, the search for ease. During this fast, as you create a void of non-struggle, you begin to retrain your perception. The practice is that of the hunt for ease. Your reticular activation system has been programmed for years to seek out and validate the belief that life is difficult. Now, you give it a new command. Every day, your only mission is to find and write down in your journal at least 3 examples of things that happened with ease, with grace, with flow. They can be incredibly small things. I found a parking space right in front. The conversation with my colleague flowed effortlessly. I had a creative idea while in the shower. At first, your mind, an expert in difficulty, will have to work to find these examples. But with practice, like a muscle that gets stronger, it will become better and better at detecting ease. You are literally rewiring your brain to start looking for and expecting grace instead of struggle. The third practice, the art of receiving. Finally, the most potent antidote to the cult of effort is the art of receiving. Struggle is born from the subconscious belief that we don't deserve things if we haven't earned them through suffering. The practice is that of the radical acceptance of gifts. When someone offers you help, instead of saying, "No, thank you, I can do it myself," breathe and say, "Thank you. I accept it." When someone gives you a compliment, instead of deflecting it, look them in the eyes and say, "Thank you. I receive it." When life presents you with a small synchronicity, a moment of unexpected grace, do not dismiss it as a coincidence. Pause, acknowledge it, and whisper inwardly, "Thank you. I am open to receiving more of this." Each of these acts of receiving, no matter how small, is a declaration you make to your subconscious. You are teaching it on a cellular level that you are worthy of receiving good without having to fight for it. You are healing the wound of unworthiness that is the root of the cult of effort. The cult that has kept you trapped in mediocrity has been exposed. You are no longer a blind devotee of struggle. You have begun the process of detoxification, of reclaiming your birthright to a life of flow and grace. Chapter 2. The Physics of Resistance. At the heart of this mystery lies a law we have already touched on, but which we must now contemplate in all its implacable precision. The universe is not like a mirror. It is a mirror. And this mirror does not reflect what you want. It reflects what you imagine. This is not a poetic idea. It is a principle of the physics of consciousness. Your dominant state of being, the sum of your thoughts and above all your habitual feelings, emits an electromagnetic signature, a frequency. The quantum field, which is a resonance field, is obliged by its very nature to organize energy and matter to correspond with that frequency. The mirror does not judge. It simply reflects. And this is where the trap of trying and wanting is revealed in all its tragic irony. The act of wanting. A declaration of lack. Let's analyze the anatomy of a desire. When you want something desperately, what is the underlying state of being? What is the true song you are singing to the universe? The song is one of absence. The act of wanting something intensely is born, by definition, from the deep and felt belief that you don't have it. Your attention is not on the presence of your desire. It is on the painful absence of it, and this consciousness of not having generates a cocktail of low-vibration emotions, anxiety, what if it never comes, impatience, I want it now, frustration, why isn't it here yet, and often envy when you see others who have it. This symphony of lack is the true signal you are emitting. Your words may say, "I want abundance," but your vibration, your energetic signature, shouts, "I don't have abundance." And the universe, which is deaf to your words but exquisitely sensitive to your vibration, obeys the most potent command. It reflects your state of not having, manifesting more circumstances that validate that same lack. It's like chasing your own shadow. The faster you run toward it, the faster it runs away from you. Your very act of chasing is what creates the distance. But the trying, a declaration of potential failure now. Let's analyze the energy of trying. The word trying is one of the most self-sabotaging in our vocabulary. It contains in its very DNA the seed of failure. When you say, "I'm going to try to do this," you are not declaring your commitment to success. You are declaring your awareness of the possibility of failure. You are saying to your subconscious, "This is difficult and I may not succeed." The subconscious, which is a literal servant, does not listen to the do part. It listens to the doubt, the hesitation, and upon receiving such an ambivalent command, it either becomes paralyzed or, following the path of least resistance, your old patterns, it leans toward the failure you have admitted as a real possibility. The creation of the counterforce. The universe abhors imbalance. Newton's third law of motion states that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. In the physics of consciousness, a similar principle operates. When you push the universe with the forced energy of need and effort, the universe, by law, pushes back. Your own struggle creates the resistance you experience. Imagine you are trying to open a door. If the door opens inward, and you in your anxiety push it outward with all your might, not only will it not open, but you will feel that the door is putting up immense resistance. The problem is not the door. It is the direction of your effort. The initiate in the law of reversal understands that the obstacle he feels is not in the external world. It is the echo of his own misapplied force. The paradox of attention, finally the physics of resistance, manifests itself through the law of attention. What you focus on expands. When you are in a state of desperate wanting, where is your attention really? It is not on the vision of your wish fulfilled. It is on the problem. If you want money desperately, your attention is fixed on the pile of bills, the negative balance, the feeling of scarcity. If you want a relationship desperately, your attention is fixed on your loneliness, on the pain of past relationships, on the absence of love in your life. By focusing all the potent light of your consciousness on the problem, you are feeding it. You are making it bigger, more solid, more real. You are literally using your divine power to build the walls of your own prison, and then you wonder why you cannot escape. The first practice, the transmutation of wanting into being. The alchemist does not try to stop wanting. He knows that is just another form of effort. Instead, he practices the transmutation of desire into assumption. His practice is that of assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You take your desire, and instead of projecting it into the future as something you want, you bring it into the present as something you are. You ask yourself the question that changes everything. How would I feel now if this were already true? And you deliberately cultivate that feeling in your body. If you seek financial security, you don't focus on the money. You focus on cultivating here and now the feeling of security. If you seek love, you cultivate the feeling of being loved. By doing this, your vibrational signature changes radically. You stop emitting the frequency of lack and begin to emit the frequency of wholeness. You stop being the beggar who asks, and you become the king who already possesses. And the universe, which is a mirror, must reflect your new state of being. The second practice, the dissolution of trying into inspired action. The master does not try to act. He allows action to arise. His practice is that of receptivity to inspired action. Once you have assumed the state of your wish fulfilled, you do not anxiously ask yourself, "What should I do now?" You create a space of silence. You trust. And you wait for the hunch, the inner impulse that feels light, easy, and obvious. That is the action that has no resistance, because it is the universe moving through you. Forced action feels like rowing against the current. It is heavy, exhausting, and often ineffective. Inspired action feels like being carried by the current. It is effortless, energizing, and produces miraculous results. The third practice, the dissolution of resistance with non-resistance. Finally, the alchemist knows that the fastest way to dissolve a wall is to stop pushing it. His practice is that of active non-resistance. When an obstacle appears in your path, when the reality of your senses presents you with evidence that contradicts your desire, your instinctive reaction is resistance. You tense up, you get frustrated, you get angry. The initiate does the opposite. He accepts the circumstance, not with resignation, but with a higher wisdom. He understands that this obstacle is not an enemy. It is part of the bridge of incidents that is carrying him to his destination. His practice is the blessing of the obstacle. When faced with an unexpected bill, instead of cursing it, he blesses it. He says inwardly, "I bless this bill as proof of the circulation of abundance in my life. I thank the universe for always giving me the resources to cover all my needs." This act of non-resistance, of radical acceptance, takes all its negative energy away from the obstacle. And often, by stopping the fight against it, the solution appears in the most unexpected way. The physics of resistance has been deciphered. You have understood that the force that was holding you back was not the world, but your own misapplied effort. You have learned that power does not reside in pushing, but in being. Chapter 3. The fraud of asking we have been taught to ask. We ask for permission, we ask for help, we ask for forgiveness, and we have transferred this model to the divine realm. We pray to an external God, to a separate universe, asking it to grant our wishes, to save us from our circumstances. Prayer in its most common form is an act of begging. It is the energetic posture of the orphan, of the helpless, of the one who lacks. We kneel, put our hands together, and supplicate. And although this posture is born of humility, In the universe of energy and vibration, it is a disaster. The law of reversal reveals a brutal truth. The universe is a mirror, not a benefactor. It does not respond to the pity of your supplication. It responds to the truth of your being. And when you ask for something, the truth you are declaring, the vibration you are emitting with every fiber of your being, is one of lack. The act of asking is the most powerful. Affirmation that I don't have. Asking for money is affirming your poverty. Asking for love is affirming your loneliness. Asking for healing is affirming your illness. And the universe, which is a perfect and non-judgmental mirror, hears your powerful declaration of I don't have and, obediently, gives you back a perfect reflection of that same lack. It gives you more of what you already are, a person who needs to ask. This is the fraud of asking. It is the belief that we can achieve wholeness through the practice of lack. It is a metaphysical impossibility. The 3 lies of supplication. To free ourselves from this trap, we must dismantle the 3 great lies on which the act of asking is based. The lie of separation. The first and most fundamental lie is that of separation. The act of asking instantly creates a duality, an I who asks and an other who gives, a small powerless I and a big powerful universe. This perception is the root of all exoteric religion. It keeps us in a state of inferiority, always dependent on the grace of an external force. The truth of forbidden metaphysics is that there is no separation. You are not in the universe. You are the universe, experiencing itself in a focal point. The force you are asking is not out there. It is within you. It is the intelligence of your subconscious, the divinity of your higher self. Asking the universe is like your right hand begging your left hand to give it something. It is an absurd act born of forgetting that both hands are part of the same body, of the same power. The lie of unworthiness. The second lie that feeds supplication is that of unworthiness. You only ask and beg for what you do not believe you deserve by right. The beggar's posture is a declaration that he is unworthy. He hopes that the charity, pity, or grace of another will grant him what he himself does not feel entitled to claim. This vibration of undeservingness is a direct countercommand to any desire for abundance. You can consciously desire wealth, but if your energetic posture is that of the beggar, your subconscious understands that your true identity is one of unworthiness, and it will sabotage any opportunity for wealth to maintain coherence with that root belief. The truth is that abundance, health, and love are not rewards you must earn through good behavior. They are your birthright. They are the natural state of being. A prince does not beg his father, the king, for his inheritance. He claims it. The act of asking is an abdication of your royal lineage as a co-creator of the universe. The lie of future fulfillment. Finally, the third lie of asking is that it always places your good in the future. The phrase "please give me" is a declaration that your good is not here now. It is always yet to come, and by living in this state of waiting, of longing for a future to save you, you are programming your subconscious to become a master of waiting. You become an expert at almost at soon, but never at now. Creation does not happen in the future. Creation can only happen in the eternal present moment. By projecting your desire into the future through supplication, you keep it one step away forever. The first practice, from beggar to king, the change of identity. The first act is not a technique, but a change of identity. It is the conscious decision to abandon the energetic posture of the beggar and adopt that of the king. The beggar kneels. His energy is contractive, his voice is one of supplication, his feeling is one of need. The king sits on his inner throne. His energy is expansive, his voice is one of serene command, his feeling is one of certainty. This is not a practice of arrogance, but of self-recognition. It is the act of remembering your true nature as a center of universal consciousness, with inherent power and authority. Before any act of creation, you adopt this posture. You sit or stand with a straight back. You breathe deeply. And for a moment you feel your own sovereignty, your divine right to create. The second practice, the art of the sovereign decree. The king does not ask. He decrees. The creator does not long. He declares. The practice is that of the sovereign affirmation. A decree is not a weak, hopeful affirmation. It is a declaration of a truth that is already a fact on the plane of consciousness. It is forged with a structure of power. Start with acknowledgement of power. A powerful decree often begins by acknowledging the source of power, by the power of my divine self, or from my identity as a co-creator of the universe. This immediately aligns you with your true nature. Declare the truth in the present, then declare your desire as an accomplished fact in the now. Not I will have, but I am, or it is manifesting now. Instead of please give me health, the decree is, from the perfect intelligence of myself, I decree radiant health as my one and only true reality now. Instead of I want to find love, the decree is, by the power of the love that I am, I decree the manifestation of my perfect and harmonious relationship now. Instead of I need more money, the decree is, from the source of infinite abundance that I am, I decree that prosperity and wealth flow to me in expected and unexpected ways now. The third practice, gratitude as the royal seal. The beggar asks and then waits with anxiety. The king decrees and then gives thanks. Gratitude is the proof that you know your word is law. It is the royal seal that closes the decree. After pronouncing your declaration, you do not look for a sign. You do not wait for proof immediately. You enter the feeling of a deep gratitude for its fulfillment. Thank you because it is already done. This act of anticipatory gratitude is the signature that seals the decree. It tells the universe that there is not a single shred of doubt in your consciousness. You have issued the command and now you rest in the certainty of its execution. The fraud of asking has been exposed. You have abandoned the posture of the beggar and have reclaimed your throne. You no longer ask the universe to give you your good. You recognize that you are the source of your good, and from that place of power you simply declare your truth. Chapter 4. The Fertile Void, the Power of Surrender. We must now explore the most paradoxical power of all, the power that is found not in doing but in non-doing, the power that resides not in wholeness but in emptiness. Welcome to the fertile void, the power of surrender. The paradox of the void, the wisdom of the teacup. Our Western culture suffers from horror vacui, the fear of the void. We associate the void with nothingness, with lack, with boredom. We feel a compulsive need to fill every moment, every space with noise, with activity, with something. A silent mind terrifies us. An empty space seems unproductive, but Eastern wisdom, especially Taoism, teaches us an inverted truth. The usefulness of a teacup does not reside in its walls, but in its empty space, which is what allows it to be filled. The usefulness of a room does not reside in its walls, but in its void, which is what allows us to inhabit it. The usefulness of a wheel does not reside in its spokes, but in the void of its hub, which is what allows it to turn. The void is not nothingness. It is the space of potentiality. It is the blank canvas before the painting. It is the silence from which music is born. It is the womb of creation. And in the art of manifestation, the act of deliberately creating a void in your consciousness, a space of no effort, of no control, of surrender, is the first and most crucial step to allowing universal intelligence to fill that space with a reality that surpasses your greatest dreams. The nature of Wu Wei. Effortless action. The ancient Taoist sages coined a term for this state of higher creation, Wu Wei. Wu Wei is often translated as inaction or non-doing, but this translation is misleading and has led many to passivity. Wu Wei does not mean laziness. It means more precisely effortless action or action without struggle. It is the art of acting in perfect harmony with the natural flow of the universe, with the Tao. It is the wisdom of knowing when to act with total precision and when to do nothing at all. To understand it, let's return to the parable of the sage and the river. The person who operates from the cult of effort is the young Arjun, who tries to cross the river by rowing frantically against the current. His action is forced, full of tension, and produces frustration and exhaustion. The master of Wu Wei is the sage who lies down on the raft, lets go of the oars, and surrenders to the current. It is not an act of defeatist passivity. It is an act of supreme intelligence. He recognizes that the force of the river is immensely superior to his own, and instead of fighting it, he allies himself with it. He uses the power of the universe itself to carry him to his destination. Intelligent surrender is not giving up. It is handing over the how and the when to a higher intelligence. It is the act of faith that, once you have established your destination, your decree, the universe knows the fastest and most elegant route to get you there. a route that your logical mind, with its limited vision, often cannot even conceive. It is the act of getting out of your own way. You have understood the philosophy of effortless action. You have seen the difference between fighting the river and navigating with its current. You have understood that the void is not an absence, but a wholeness of potential. But how do you cultivate this state of intelligent surrender in a world that glorifies struggle? How do you deliberately create the fertile void in our own consciousness? The first practice, the creation of the void. The master knows that he cannot think his way to surrender. He must create the space for surrender to happen. His practice is that of receptive silence, meditation as non-doing. The practice of meditation in this context is not an act of concentration, but an act of letting go. You sit in silence, and your only task is to let go. You let go of the need to control your thoughts. You let go of the tension in your body. You let go of your agenda for the day. You create for 15 minutes a space of pure receptivity, a void, listening in the void. In this silence, you are not trying to think of a solution. You are creating the necessary space to listen for the solution, which often arrives as an intuitive impulse or an inspired idea, a whisper from the universe that can only be heard in stillness. The second practice, the art of the open hand. Once you have uttered your decree, once you have set your intention, the master practices the art of the open hand. He knows that he cannot receive a gift with a closed fist. This is the practice of detachment from the outcome. The release clause. After declaring your desire, you silently add a release clause. Universe, I accept this or something better, for my highest good and the highest good of all involved. This simple phrase is an act of humility and trust. It acknowledges that your ego has a limited vision and that universal intelligence may have an even grander plan for you. It frees the universe to surprise you. Trust in the how. You completely let go of the need to know how your desire will manifest. That is not your job. Your job is to maintain the what, the vision, and the who, your state of being. The how is the universe's domain. By letting go of control over the details, you allow synchronicity and miraculous paths to manifest. The third practice, the body compass. To navigate the flow of Wu Wei, to know when to act and when to wait, the master does not use a map. He uses a compass, and that compass is his own body. The practice is that of somatic intelligence. Before taking an action, you ask yourself the question, does this action feel light or heavy? Lightness, expansion, a feeling of yes in the body, is the signal that the action is aligned with the flow of the Tao. It is an effortless action, an inspired action. Heaviness, contraction, a feeling of a visceral no, is the signal that you are about to row against the current, that the action is born of the ego and not of inspiration. The master learns to honor this compass above the arguments of the logical mind. He knows that the body never lies. The fertile void has been revealed to you. It is no longer nothingness to be feared, but everythingness to be allowed. The power of surrender has dismantled your need to control. You have learned to let go of the oars and trust the current. You have learned that the greatest power does not reside in the strength of your hands, but in the openness of your heart. Chapter 5. Silent Certainty, the State of Being. As long as you remain in the state of wanting, you will stay in the game of effort. As we have seen, wanting something is a declaration of its absence. It is a frequency of lack. It is the prayer of the beggar. The law of reversal teaches us that the universe does not give you what you want. It gives you a perfect reflection of what you are. The initiate in this forbidden knowledge does not try to stop wanting. He knows that is just another form of effort. Instead, he practices the art of assumption. Assumption is the operational principle of silent certainty. It is not positive thinking. It is not faking it till you make it. It is the art and science of assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. It is the act of inhabiting in your imagination and in your body the state of being of the person who already has, already is, and already experiences what you desire. You stop being the seeker who chases a future. You become the creator who embodies that future in the present. The physics of I am, the power of the assumed state. This is not a psychological trick. It is the application of the physics of consciousness. The quantum observer and the state, as we already know, The quantum field does not respond to what you observe, but to the state from which you observe. If you observe your reality from the state of, I am poor and I need money, your consciousness, charged with that frequency, can only collapse into your experience events that correspond to poverty and need. If you observe the world from the state of, I am rich and secure, your consciousness, now charged with the frequency of abundance, will begin to collapse events that correspond to wealth and security. The universe does not change. What changes is the observer. And when the observer changes, the reality being observed is obligated to change to reflect it. The act of assuming a new state of being is the act of becoming a new observer. The subconscious is a literal engine. Your subconscious mind, the great engine of manifestation, does not understand the future. It only understands the now. Its only function is to express in the outer world the truth of your present identity. And the most powerful declaration of your present identity are the words I am. When you live in the feeling of I am successful, your subconscious accepts that identity as its new directive. And since its job is to maintain coherence, it will begin to direct your actions, your perceptions, and the flow of synchronicities to align with the reality of a successful person. You no longer have to try to make the right decisions. From the state of being successful, the right decisions become obvious and intuitive. The feeling is the secret. Assumption is not an intellectual exercise. It is a somatic embodiment. It is the act of generating, through your disciplined imagination, the real and physical feeling of the wish fulfilled. This emotion is the electromagnetic signature that tunes your being to that reality in the quantum field. It is the ink that engraves the new image on the holographic plate of your subconscious. Imagine two people who want to be charismatic speakers. Person A, operating from the cult of effort, tries to be charismatic. She practices her speeches, studies body language techniques, repeats affirmations, but inside her state of being is that of a nervous person, trying to be confident, and the audience, which is a perfect vibration detector, does not respond to her words. It responds to her anxiety. Person B, an initiate in the law of reversal, ignores her current nervousness. Her practice happens in the stillness of her mind. Every night, in the drowsy state, she enters the feeling of being an acclaimed speaker. She doesn't see herself giving the speech. She immerses herself in the feeling that comes after, the relief, the satisfaction, the gratitude for the audience's ovation, the feeling of having connected deeply. When the day of the presentation arrives, she doesn't try to be charismatic. She walks onto the stage assuming the identity of the master she has already become inside. Her body, her voice, her presence radiate the calm and authority of her assumed state. And the audience, by the law of resonance, responds to that certainty. The first practice, the forging of the state. The master knows that the most powerful portal to access the subconscious mind is the drowsy state, the threshold between waking and sleeping, where the logical and critical mind surrenders. It is in this dark room that new realities are engraved. His practice is the nightly ritual of assumption. The script. First, he defines with absolute clarity a short and simple scene that implies his wish is already a fact. Not the scene of receiving the money, but the scene of a conversation with a friend in which he says, I remember when I used to worry about money. Not the wedding scene, but the one of feeling the familiar weight of a wedding ring on his finger while performing an everyday task. The scene must be short in the first person, and above all must evoke a feeling of naturalness and fulfillment. The immersion. Then, in bed, in the stillness of the night, he completely relaxes. And once he feels himself drifting into drowsiness, he introduces his scene. He lives it. He feels it. He repeats this brief imaginary act over and over, not with tense effort, but like a lullaby, until the sensation of the scene becomes so real and natural that he falls asleep inside it. This act, as the great Neville Goddard taught, is the act of impregnating the subconscious. You have planted the seed of your new self in the most fertile soil that exists. The second practice, the art of persistence, the mental diet. Once you have assumed the new state in the stillness of your night, your only job during the day is to remain loyal to it. And this is where the real battle is fought. Because when you open your eyes, the world of your senses, the echo of your old state of being, will present you with all the evidence that your assumption is a lie. The master's practice is the mental diet. It is the art of refusing to be seduced by the evidence of your senses. When a thought of doubt or fear, a ghost of the old state, appears, you don't fight it. You acknowledge it, and with a sovereign calm, you return to the feeling of your wish fulfilled. You don't ask again. You don't try again. You simply remember the truth of who you already are on the inside. Persistence is not about repeating the technique over and over with anxiety. It is about inhabiting the assumed state throughout the day. You ask yourself, how would the person who is already who I want to be move, talk, and decide? And you act from that identity. Silent certainty has been revealed to you. It is the end of searching and the beginning of being. It is the quantum shift that turns you from a beggar of the future into a king of the present. You no longer chase your dreams, you embody them. And by embodying them, the universe has no choice but to reorganize itself around you, to reflect the truth of who you have decided to be. Chapter 6. The Magnetism of Joy. The ego, when it learns the laws of manifestation, often becomes a solemn creator. It takes itself and its creative work with a deadly seriousness. Every meditation is an exam. Every day is a test. Life becomes a project to be managed, rather than a game to be enjoyed. This seriousness, although born of a noble intention, is a form of resistance. It is imbued with the energy of fear. The fear of not doing it well, the fear that it won't work. It is a heavy, controlling, and ultimately counterproductive vibration. It's like an artist trying to paint a masterpiece while terrified of making a mistake. His hand will be tense, his brushstrokes rigid, and his work will lack the spark of life. True mastery, that which operates according to the law of reversal, transcends seriousness. It understands that the universe is not a severe foreman who demands perfection. It is an infinite playground that responds to only one thing: resonance. And the most resonant, most magnetic, and most creative frequency of all is that of joy. Happiness versus joy. The great distinction. To understand this principle, we must differentiate between happiness and joy. Happiness, as we have understood it, is conditional. It is a reaction to an external event. I get the job, therefore I am happy. It is the prize we hope to receive at the end of the struggle. Joy, on the other hand, is unconditional. It is not a reaction to what happens. It is a radiation that emanates from within us. It is the joy of being, the celebration of the process, the enjoyment of the game itself regardless of the outcome. Happiness is the destination. Joy is the vehicle. And the law of reversal teaches us that you cannot arrive at a destination of joy in a vehicle of anxiety. You must travel in the vehicle of joy to arrive at the station of happiness. The physics and biology of joy is not a simple, pleasant emotion. It is the optimal state for manifestation, a truth backed by the physics of consciousness and the biology of our body. Joy as the highest frequency. If we imagine emotions on a vibrational scale, joy and happiness are at the top. They are the frequency of pure, unobstructed life force. It is the vibration of expansion, of infinite possibility, of creation in its purest state. When you are in a state of joy, your electromagnetic signature is incredibly coherent, potent, and magnetic. Joy as the state of maximum receptivity. Joy is a state of total non-resistance. It is impossible to feel genuine joy and at the same time resist what is. Joy is a form of radical acceptance, and in this state of non-resistance you become an open channel. The struggle ceases, control dissolves, and it is in this state of allowing, of flowing, that the intelligence of the universe can orchestrate synchronicities and opportunities in the fastest and most elegant way. The biology of bliss. When you experience a state of joy, your brain and body are flooded with a biochemical cocktail of creation. You release endorphins, serotonin, dopamine, and anandamide, the bliss molecule. This state not only makes you feel good, it makes you more intelligent, more creative, and more intuitive. In a state of joy, your brain enters the flow of alpha waves, the bridge to the subconscious, where solutions to problems and brilliant ideas appear effortlessly. The magnetism of the child. The magnetic power of joy can be observed in its purest form in a happy child. A child who is completely immersed in the joy of their play is not trying to attract anything. They have no goals, no agenda, They simply radiate an energy of pure joy. And what happens around them? Adults are drawn to them. They want to smile at them, play with them, give them gifts. Their joy is so magnetic that it reorganizes the environment in their favor without any effort. The universe responds to our joy in the same way. When you stop being the solemn creator and become the joyful child, the entire universe wants to come and play with you. Joy is not the reward at the end of the road. It is the road itself, paved with the energy of creation. It is the highest frequency, the state of maximum receptivity, and the most potent magnet we possess. But how do you cultivate this unconditional joy in a world that often seems designed for seriousness and struggle? How do you access this frequency by choice instead of by accident? The first practice, the deconstruction of seriousness. The greatest obstacle to joy is our addiction to seriousness. The negative ego, the solemn creator, has convinced us that to be responsible, professional, or spiritual, we must be solemn and heavy. Playfulness, lightness, laughter are seen as frivolous luxuries, not as essential components of a full life. The master's first practice is the conscious cultivation of play. This doesn't necessarily mean playing games, but bringing a playful attitude to everything you do. You ask yourself, how can I do this serious task with a spirit of lightness? Perhaps you put on music and dance while cleaning the house. Perhaps you turn writing a report into a game to find the most elegant words. The initiate knows that solemnity is the vibration of the ego. Joy is the vibration of the soul. By consciously choosing lightness over heaviness, you are choosing your soul over your ego. The second practice, the hunt for resonance. The master knows that joy cannot be forced, but it can be invited. His practice is to become a hunter of resonance. He uses his journal not just for his decrees, but as a joy journal. Every day, he writes down 3 things, not for which he is grateful, but that brought him a moment of resonance, of flow, of effortless joy. What was the moment of my day today, however small, in which I felt most alive, most authentic, most in flow? Perhaps it was during that conversation with a friend in which he felt a deep connection. Perhaps it was while solving that complex problem at work, feeling the pleasure of the challenge. Perhaps it was while walking in the sun, for no apparent reason. Over time, this journal reveals a map of the unique channels through which joy naturally flows into his life. It shows him the activities, the people, and the environments that are a vibrational yes for his soul. And with this information, he can begin to consciously design a life that contains more of these moments. The third practice, the embodiment of future joy. Finally, the master does not wait for the manifestation to arrive to feel joy. He feels joy for the manifestation to arrive. His practice is that of anticipatory celebration. In his meditation, he does not just visualize his completed goal. He immerses himself in the celebration. He feels the laughter bubbling in his chest. He feels the smile he cannot contain. He dances in his imagination. He feels the expansive relief, the overflowing gratitude, the pure joy of victory. He is literally conditioning his body to the biochemistry of triumph. He is becoming the tuning fork that vibrates at the frequency of his already realized dream. And that vibration, that frequency of pure joy, is the most magnetic signal he can send to the universe. The magnetism of joy has been revealed to you. It has ceased to be a distant goal and has become your compass, your fuel, and your way of traveling. You no longer seek joy in the world. You radiate it to the world. And the world, like a joyful mirror, cannot help but return the reflection of your own light. Chapter 7. The Art of Inspired Action. The ego, our separate identity, lives under a fundamental illusion, the belief that it is the primary engine of reality. It believes that its actions, its effort, and its will are the causes that produce effects in the world. I make things happen. This belief is the root of the cult of effort. It is what leads us to struggle, to force, to manipulate, to row against the current, believing that the success of our journey depends exclusively on the strength of our arms. The law of reversal reveals a deeper truth. The ego is not the ship's engine. The engine is the universe, infinite intelligence, the current of the Tao. The ego, in its highest expression of wisdom, is not the one who pushes the ship, but the one who directs the rudder. Action, therefore, completely changes its nature. Forced action is the ego's attempt to be the engine. It is an action born of doubt, of the belief that if I don't force it, it won't happen. It is an energy of distrust, contraction, and resistance. Inspired action is the movement of the rudder. It is an action born of trust, of alignment with the current. It does not try to create the movement. It guides it. It is an energy of permission, expansion, and flow. The initiate in the law of reversal stops trying to be the cause of manifestation and becomes the channel through which manifestation flows. The anatomy of inspired action, to become a master of this art, you must learn to differentiate, in your own body and in your own life, the texture of these two forms of action. It is a response, not an initiative. Forced action is an initiative born of the logical mind. You look at your situation, analyze your problems, and create a list of things you should do. It is a plan born of the past and projected toward the future. Inspired action, on the other hand, is a response. It is not born of a plan, but of a signal in the present moment. It is a response to an intuitive impulse, a synchronicity, a hunch. The master of the law of reversal is like an expert surfer. The surfer who operates from effort would try to create a wave by splashing the water with his hands. It is an absurd and exhausting act. The master surfer prepares. He sits on his board, cultivates his state of being. He watches the ocean, remains in a state of receptivity, and he responds to the wave when it arrives. His action is not to create the wave, but to ride it. Inspired action is the art of riding the waves of the universe. It is effortless, not difficult. Forced action, by going against the current, always feels like a struggle. It is heavy, it drains your energy, it leaves you exhausted. Inspired action, by moving with the current, feels effortless. This does not mean there is no activity. Paddling to catch the wave requires energy, but it is an energy that feels joyful, aligned. It is the feeling of flow, that magical state where time disappears, where you feel completely absorbed by the task and you come out of it more energized than when you went in. Struggle is the unmistakable sign that you are out of alignment. Ease is the signature of inspiration. It is timely, not urgent. Forced action is born of the ego's impatience. It has an agenda, a timeline. It wants the result now. Inspired action operates in divine time, kairos. It has a quality of perfect timeliness. The master does not anxiously ask, "What do I do now?" He maintains his state of being, and he waits for the impulse. And when the impulse arrives, the sudden idea, the call he feels he must make, he acts with total immediate decision. He does not procrastinate. He does not doubt. Because he knows that is the wave. Imagine an entrepreneur who wants to launch a new product. Forced action is to create a rigid business plan, set an arbitrary launch date, and then work day and night stressed to meet that date, forcing every step of the process. Inspired action is to hold the vision of the successful product in his being. One day, while taking a walk, he gets an impulse to go into a bookstore. There he casually finds a book that gives him the missing piece of his strategy. Days later, he gets an impulse to call an old contact who happens to have the perfect connection for distribution. He launches the product, not when his schedule said so, but when all the pieces, guided by synchronicity, have fallen into place naturally. The first practice, the cultivation of the receptive state. The master knows that the universe whispers its instructions. It does not shout them. His first practice is not to seek action, but to cultivate receptivity, silence as a portal. The fundamental practice is to create perception pauses throughout his day. He gives himself moments, even if only 5 minutes, of silence and non-doing. He sits by a window, walks in a park, simply stays still and breathes. He is not meditating with a goal. He is creating a void. He knows that it is in this void, in this absence of the ego's agenda, where infinite intelligence has the space to plant a new idea, to whisper the next direction to him, the beginner's mind. He approaches his day with a beginner's mind. He lets go of his preconceived notions about how things should be and opens himself to the possibility that the universe has a better, more ingenious plan. The second practice, the body compass. To know if an impulse is a true inspired action or a simple whim of the ego, the master consults his most faithful oracle, his own body. The practice is that of somatic consultation. Before embarking on an important action, the initiate takes a moment. He closes his eyes. He brings the idea of the action to his mind, and then he brings his attention to his body and asks himself, how does this feel? If the idea of the action creates a sensation of expansion, of lightness, of an energy that flows forward, a yes that resonates in his heart or his gut, he knows it is an inspired action. If, on the other hand, the idea creates a sensation of contraction, of heaviness, of a dull resistance, a visceral no, he knows it is a forced action, born of the logical mind, but not aligned with the flow of his soul. The master learns to honor this compass above all the arguments of reason. He knows that the body never lies. The third practice, faith in the first step. The master knows that the universe rarely shows him the complete map. It shows him only the next breadcrumb on the path. His most important practice, therefore, is that of faith in the first step. Imagine the story of a man named Samuel, an artist who had assumed the state of abundance and recognition for his work, but who didn't know what to do to achieve it. One day, after his meditation, he felt a clear but seemingly absurd intuitive impulse. Go to the old abandoned train station. His logical mind protested, "That's crazy. What are you going to do there? It's dangerous, it's a waste of time." The old Samuel would have obeyed logic, but the new Samuel, the initiate in the law of reversal, decided to practice faith. He obeyed the impulse. He went to the station. Nothing spectacular happened. He simply felt drawn to the texture of a rusty wall and took a photo of it with his phone. A few days later, looking at the photo, he received a second impulse. Paint this. He locked himself in his studio and for the first time in months, painted with a renewed passion, not a realistic image, but an abstraction inspired by the colors and textures of the rust. The painting was strange, different from anything he had ever done before. He hung it in his studio and didn't know what else to do. A week later, a friend visited him, and upon seeing the painting, she gasped. "Samuel," she said, "I know a gallery owner who is looking for exactly this style. You have to call him." Samuel, following the current of synchronicity, called the gallery owner. The gallery owner, intrigued, visited his studio. And upon seeing the painting, his eyes lit up. He not only offered him a solo exhibition, but he revealed that that particular rusty wall was part of a famous historical train, which gave the work an unexpected story and value. The exhibition was a resounding success. Samuel's manifestation did not come through a 10-step business plan. It came through a chain of inspired actions, each one seemingly small and illogical, but each one being the response to an inner guidance that he had the courage to follow. The art of inspired action has been revealed to you. It is the dissolution of struggle. It is the discovery that you don't have to move the universe. You just have to move with it. You have learned to stop being the rower who fights the current and to become the surfer who dances with the waves. Chapter 8. The Alchemy of Failure. At this point, the untrained mind gives up. It interprets the obstacle as a sign that the law does not work, that it is unworthy, or that its dream is impossible. It falls back into the trap of the cult of effort, believing that it must fight harder, or it abandons the path entirely. But the initiate in the law of reversal knows that he has just received one of the most valuable lessons, one of the most direct communications from the universe. He has not found an end. He has found a compass. Welcome to the alchemy of failure, the ego's verdict. Failure as judgment. To understand the power of alchemy, we must first understand the poison. And the poison is the ego's interpretation of failure. The ego, our separate and anxious identity, sees failure as a personal verdict. It believes that the outcome of an action is a direct measure of its own worth. If the business succeeds, the ego concludes, "I am successful. I am worthy." If the business fails, the ego concludes, "I am a failure. I am unworthy." This fusion of identity with the outcome is the source of immense suffering. It turns life into a courtroom, where every action is a trial that can result in acquittal, success, or conviction, failure. And it is out of fear of this conviction that we often prefer not to act at all. Furthermore, our culture has created a cult of success that is the other side of the cult of effort. We glorify stories of linear success, the carefully edited biographies that hide the stumbles, doubts, and falls. We create a collective illusion that successful people never fail. And in doing so, we turn failure, which is a natural and essential part of the growth process, into a source of toxic shame and isolation. The first and greatest of alchemical transmutations is, therefore, to separate your being from the outcome. It is to understand on a cellular level that a failure event is not a reflection of your worth, in the same way that a storm cloud is not a reflection of the sky's worth. It is simply a weather event, the divine recalibration, failure as a message. Once you have performed this de-identification, you can begin to see failure not as a verdict, but as what it really is, a message. It is a form of incredibly precise feedback that universal intelligence sends you to guide you on your path. The universe does not punish. The universe corrects the course. An obstacle, a no, a failure, is not a sign for you to give up. It is a divine recalibration. It is the loving, though sometimes severe hand of the universe, guiding you toward your highest good. This recalibration operates in three ways. Failure as redirection. Sometimes a door that slams shut is not a punishment. It is protection. Our conscious mind, with its limited vision, often fixates on a very specific way in which it believes its desire should manifest. But universal intelligence, which sees the whole tapestry, may know that that particular path is not for your highest good. The failure to get that specific job you so desired may be the universe protecting you from a toxic work environment that would have destroyed your spirit. The relationship that didn't work out, no matter how much it hurt, may have been a redirection that prevented you from committing to a person who was not aligned with your true self. The principle of non-resistance teaches us that if a path requires constant, brutal, soul-draining effort, it is often the wrong path. A failure on that path is often an invitation from the universe to pause and look for a door that opens more easily, one that is more aligned with the flow of your soul. Failure as a lesson. Other times, the path is the right one, but we are not yet ready for it. Failure in this case is not a redirection, but a lesson. It is the exam that shows you exactly what skill, what strength, or what wisdom you need to acquire before you can move to the next level. An entrepreneur whose first business fails has two options. He can interpret it as a verdict, I'm not cut out for this, or as a lesson, I just received an intensive master's degree in what doesn't work. Failure seen from this perspective is not a defeat. It is the most valuable personalized consulting you will ever receive. It shows you, with a surgeon's precision, the cracks in your foundations, and it gives you the opportunity to fix them before building a bigger building. Failure as strengthening. Finally, suffering and failure are the gym of character. Nietzsche's famous quote, "What does not kill me makes me stronger," is an alchemical truth. It is in the fire of adversity that the dross of the ego, our arrogance, our naivete, our attachment, is burned away. And it is from those ashes that a more humble, more resilient and wiser self is born. You cannot know the true depth of your strength until you have been tested. You cannot develop true compassion until you have known true pain. Failure is the hero's initiation. It is the journey to the underworld from which you return with the treasure of a character forged in fire. You have been introduced to the true nature of the marble and the chisel. You have begun to see failure not as an enemy, but as a teacher, and pain not as a punishment, but as the indispensable tool that shapes your character. But how do we stand before that blow? What is the inner posture that allows us to receive the impact of the chisel without breaking, but allowing it to refine us? Now we move from understanding to practice. Because knowing that pain is a tool is one thing, learning to wield it is another. When the chisel strikes, when the marble cracks, when emotional pain or frustration floods your being, what do? What is the master's discipline in the moment of truth? We now enter the alchemist's workshop, not to learn to avoid pain, but to learn to transmute it. I will give you the 3 sacred practices that will allow you to take the lead of suffering and consciously turn it into the gold of your character. First practice, the art of sacred witnessing, honoring the energy. The first and most crucial act of healing is not to analyze, fix, or suppress pain. It is simply to honor it. Most of our suffering does not come from the initial pain, but from the war we wage against it. We judge ourselves for feeling bad. We tell ourselves stories that we shouldn't feel what we feel, and this resistance is like adding fuel to the fire. The master's practice is one of conscious surrender. It is the art of being a sacred witness to your own experience. The technique, when a wave of emotional pain hits you, sadness, fear, frustration, shame, resist the urge to seek immediate distraction. Instead, pause. If you can, close your eyes. Now, make a radical move. Withdraw all your attention from the story your mind is telling about the pain. This is terrible, it will never end. It's so-and-so's fault. And bring your attention directly to the physical sensation of the pain in your body. Become an explorer of your inner landscape. Where does this emotion live? Is it a tightness in your chest? A knot in your throat? A void in your stomach? A warmth in your face? Be as precise as possible. Once you have located the sensation, do the opposite of what your instinct tells you. Instead of contracting and resisting, breathe into the sensation. Imagine your breath gently surrounding it, giving it space, air, permission. Surround it with your consciousness, not with a consciousness that judges or wants to change it, but with the consciousness of a loving mother cradling her crying child. You are not trying to make the child stop crying. You are simply holding it with unconditional love, giving it permission to feel what it feels. The alchemy. This act of compassionate witnessing is incredibly powerful. By no longer fighting the pain, you stop feeding it with the energy of your resistance. The emotional energy upon feeling seen, heard, and accepted without judgment begins to do what all energy wants to do. Flow. It softens, dissipates, and integrates. You have learned the first lesson of the alchemist. Acceptance, not resistance, is the true agent of transformation. Second practice, the rewriting of the narrative, giving meaning to the wound. Once you have honored the raw energy of the pain, once the emotional storm has subsided, it is time for the sculptor to take his tools and begin to shape the meaning. You know that you cannot change the past event, but you have the absolute power to change the story you tell yourself about it in the present. This is the practice of the alchemical narrative, a process that is often performed in the sacred intimacy of your journal. The technique. You will write the story of your wound, your failure 3 times from 3 radically different perspectives. The victim's story. First, you will give yourself total permission to be the victim. Write the story from a place of unfiltered pain. Express all your anger, your sadness, your feeling of injustice. Do not hold back. This is your catharsis. It is the act of getting the poison out of your system and onto the page so that you can see it. The neutral observer's story. A few days later, when you feel more detached, return to your journal. Now write the same story, but as if you were an objective journalist reporting on an event. Stick only to the observable and verifiable facts. What happened? Who said what? What actions were taken? Eliminate all emotional adjectives and all interpretations. This act of detachment helps you to separate the raw facts from the emotionally charged narrative you have built around them. Chapter 9. The Language of Allowing. In the most superficial teachings of manifestation, we are often presented with a creation model that is, in essence, a metaphysical version of the cult of effort. We are told that we must project our will onto the universe, that we must bombard the quantum field with our images and affirmations until it surrenders and gives us what we want. In this model, visualization becomes an act of force, an intense and often tense concentration. The affirmation becomes a mechanical repetition, an attempt to convince a recalcitrant subconscious. This is the mentality of the mistaken magician. He is still operating from the paradigm of separation and struggle. There is an I here, who wants something, and a universe over there that must be forced. And as we already know, everything that is born of effort and force, by the law of reversal, creates a counterforce of resistance. The great inversion. From projection to reception, the initiate in the law of reversal understands a much more elegant truth. The universe is not an enemy to be conquered. It is a partner that longs to co-create with you. Your job is not to force a new reality, but to allow the reality that is already yours on the invisible plane to manifest. Therefore, the use of visualization and affirmations is completely inverted. They are no longer tools to send a command. They are tools to receive a truth. They are no longer acts of projection. They are acts of tuning. Imagine the quantum field as a vast network of radio stations. All possible realities, that of your perfect health, your abundance, your love, are already broadcasting their signal right now. Your mind is not a radio transmitter, trying to create a new station. It is a radio receiver. Visualization is the act of searching on the infinite dial for the frequency of the station you choose to listen to. Elevated emotion. Here's the act of fine-tuning until the signal is clear and without static. And the affirmation is the act of putting the name of the station on your mental screen, constantly reminding you what frequency you have chosen to live on. From this perspective, manifestation ceases to be a struggle and becomes an art of receptivity. Visualization as tuning. When the mistaken magician visualizes, he projects an image from his mind outward. This often creates a feeling of longing, that the image is over there and he is over here. The master of the law of reversal does not project anything. In his meditation, he becomes silent, receptive, and instead of creating an image, he allows the image of his wish fulfilled, which already exists as a potentiality in the field, to emerge into his consciousness. It is not an act of doing, but of allowing himself to be seen. It's like tuning the radio and waiting for the music to begin to play. Affirmation as remembrance. The mistaken magician uses affirmations to try to convince himself of a truth he doesn't feel. I am rich, I am rich, I am rich, he repeats, while his heart screams with fear. The master of the law of reversal understands that an affirmation is not for convincing, but for remembering. The I am state is an acknowledgement of a truth that already exists in your essential being. When you declare I am abundance, you are not trying to become something you are not. You are remembering your true nature, which is that of abundance, and you are clearing away the cobwebs of the belief in scarcity. An affirmation from this perspective is not a request. It is a royal decree. A king does not try to convince himself that he is a king. He simply speaks and acts from that identity. Feeling as the click of the tuning finally, the feeling of the wish fulfilled, which we have explored as the fire and the ink, takes on a new meaning in the language of allowing. It is no longer an emotion you have to generate with effort. It is the click you feel when the radio dial has found the perfect station. It is the unmistakable signal that you have achieved tuning. It is the resonance that occurs naturally when your individual consciousness aligns with the frequency of the universal mind. You don't create the feeling. You allow it to emerge, like the warmth that emanates from a fire you have found, not one you are struggling to light. We have dismantled the illusion of the magician who forces. We have understood that visualization is tuning, and affirmation is remembrance. We have learned that power does not reside in broadcasting, but in reception. But how is this subtle art practiced? How do we become the perfect tuner, the king who remembers his sovereignty? The first practice, visualization as reception. The master does not project an image with the force of his will. He becomes a silent receiver. His practice is that of meditative tuning, the creation of the void. You begin by entering the fertile void we already know. You sit in silence. You calm your mind through breathing. You let go of the energy of wanting and trying. You create a space of pure receptivity, gentle tuning. Instead of forcing a detailed image of your desire, you simply hold the concept or essence of your desire in your consciousness, like a silent question to the universe. Perfect health, financial freedom, harmonious love, the reception of the image, and you wait. You open yourself, and you allow an image, a symbol, or a scene to come to you from the field of universal intelligence. You receive the blueprint. You don't draw it by force. Often, the image the universe sends you is much more potent and symbolically rich than your logical mind could have invented. Feeling as confirmation. When the image arrives, you don't analyze it. You simply feel it. Does it bring you a feeling of peace, resonance, a deep yes in your being? If so, you have tuned into the right frequency. You have found the station. The second practice, affirmation as resonance. The master does not use an affirmation to convince himself of something he is not. He uses it to resonate with a truth that already is in his essential being. The practice is not one of mechanical repetition, but of vibrational intonation. You take your decree, your I am affirmation. For example, I am abundance. You don't repeat it like a parrot so your brain will believe it. You whisper it in the silence of your meditation. And then you listen. You feel the vibration of those words in your body. You feel how they resonate in your chest, in your cells. You become the instrument that is being tuned by the word, not the musician who forces it. The affirmation becomes a tuning fork. You use it to tune your state of being to the frequency of the truth you are declaring. The third practice, the art of the open channel. Once the tuning is complete, once you have found the station and are resonating with the music, the master does not cling to the signal. He trusts the broadcast. His practice is to maintain the open channel. This is the art of living from the end, which we have already explored. It is the act of walking through your day with the serene confidence of someone who has their radio permanently tuned to their favorite station. You are not constantly checking the dial, looking for proof. You are not worried about whether the station will disappear. You are simply enjoying the music, the feeling of your wish fulfilled, knowing that the broadcast is constant and clear. The language of allowing has been revealed to you. You have learned to stop being the magician who struggles and become the sage who tunes in. Your creation tools are no longer weapons of force, but instruments of resonance. And in that resonance you find true effortless power. You have mastered the art of allowing. You have tuned your being to the frequency of your desire. Now in our final chapter, we will explore the culmination of the journey, the art of living permanently in this state of grace. In the next chapter, we will learn to live in the inversion. Chapter 10. Living the inversion. Now we come to the end of the road, which is paradoxically the true beginning, the moment of final integration, the moment when you start practicing the law of reversal and you become it. Welcome to the art of living the inversion, from doing to being, the dissolution of practice. The journey of conscious creation has two main stages. The first is doing. It is the stage of the student, of the alchemist in his workshop. In this phase we practice meditation to create the void. We practice the assumption of the wish fulfilled. We practice tuning into joy. These practices are the necessary scaffolding to build the edifice of a new consciousness. But the purpose of all scaffolding is not to remain forever. It is to be removed once the building is solid. The second stage, that of mastery, is being. The person who lives in the inversion no longer needs to practice surrender. He simply is a surrendered being. He no longer needs to practice certainty. He simply is a certain being. Joy is not a state he cultivates. It is the atmosphere he breathes. Conscious effort to apply the law dissolves into a state of being. Philosophy has become physiology. Knowledge has become character. You have become the law itself, the three qualities of an inverted life, the life of a person who is embodied. The law of reversal radiates three unmistakable qualities. The quality of unshakable peace. The first and most fundamental quality of this state is a deep peace that does not depend on circumstances. It is not the peace that comes from everything in life being perfect. It is the peace that remains even when everything seems to fall apart. It is the calm of the deep ocean, which is not affected by the storm raging on the surface. This peace is born of a cellular trust in the universe. You have stopped seeing life as an adversary to be defeated. You have recognized it as a friendly intelligence that is always conspiring in your favor, even when its methods are mysterious. The war between your ego's desire to control and your soul's wisdom to flow has ended. A peace treaty has been signed, and the result of that inner peace is an outer serenity that no storm can disturb. The quality of playful creation. The creator who operates from effort is solemn and serious. His work is a burden. The master of the law of reversal, on the other hand, is a playful creator. Having found wholeness in his own being, he no longer needs his manifestations to complete him. And this, paradoxically, makes him the most powerful creator. He understands the truth that the sages of India called Lila, the divine game. He knows that the universe is not a serious problem to be solved, but a work of art to be created. He plays his roles in the world with total excellence and presence, but with an inner lightness. He knows it is a sacred game. This perspective frees him from the tyranny of personal importance and gives him the freedom to be audacious, to be creative, to fail with a smile and to try again, not as an effort to arrive, but as an expression of the joy of being. The quality of magnetic grace. Finally, the life of the master is imbued with a quality that the uninitiated call luck. It is grace. Opportunities seem to flow toward him effortlessly. The right people appear at the perfect time. Solutions to problems manifest in unexpected and miraculous ways. But this is not luck, it is physics. It is the natural consequence of living in a state of non-resistance. By living in a state of joyful, surrendered, and certain being, you become a vortex of high frequency. And the universe, by the law of resonance, must bring you experiences that correspond to that vibration. Grace is not a gift that the universe gives you. It is the reflection of the grace that you have cultivated in your own heart. The dissolution of technique. From effort to being, the initiate in the law of reversal no longer clings to techniques. Why? Because he has practiced them with such devotion that they have become automatic, subconscious. He no longer needs to practice visualization at a specific time. His mind, by default, sees the potential and the success in every situation. He no longer needs to repeat power affirmations. His inner dialogue, by habit, has become a flow of self-respect and possibility. He no longer needs to force a feeling of gratitude. His heart, having been trained in coherence, naturally resides in a state of appreciation, conscious. Effort dissolves into a state of being the embodiment of principles, the masters. Life is the living embodiment of the principles of this manual. He lives beyond effort. He lives in a state of natural wu-wei. He doesn't have to try not to make an effort. His body compass, now tuned, naturally guides him along the path of least resistance. He lives beyond asking. The master no longer decrees with the same need as the apprentice. His entire life is a decree. His state of being, that silent, joyful certainty, is the most potent, constant command the universe can receive. He lives in the fertile void. He lives with one foot in the world of form and the other in the fertile void of silence. He maintains a constant connection to the source, allowing inspiration to guide his actions spontaneously and perfectly. He lives in silent certainty. His natural state is silent certainty. He doesn't have to practice faith. His trust in the law is as fundamental as his own breath. He lives in joy. His joy does not depend on his manifestations arriving. His joy is what makes his manifestations arrive. He lives in inspired action. His actions are not born of anxious analysis, but of intuitive response. He becomes the dance itself. He lives alchemy. He sees every apparent failure not as a mistake, but as an exquisite part of the divine choreography, a recalibration that always guides him to a greater good. Living the inversion is not reaching a static state of perfection. It is the beginning of a life lived as art. It is the endless dance between being and doing, between silence and symphony. You have completed the manual. You have learned to dismantle the prison of effort. Practice has dissolved into being. The student has become the master. Now only one thing remains: to take this new identity, this new grace, and walk through the world, not as someone who has learned a secret, but as someone who is the secret. In the conclusion, we will close the book, but we will open the doors of your new effortless life. Our journey began with a heresy, with the bold declaration that everything we have been taught about power and achievement is inverted. We started as devotees of the cult of effort, believing that life was a battle to be won through force, and throughout this manual, we have undertaken a silent revolution. In the first part, we dismantled the illusions of force. We discovered the physics of resistance, understanding how our desperate wanting creates a counterforce. And we exposed the fraud of asking, the prayer of lack that can only manifest more lack. Then, in the second part, we were initiated into the principles of non-doing. We immersed ourselves in the fertile void of wu-wei, the power of surrender. We made the quantum shift from I want to I am, through the silent certainty of assumption. And we discovered the magnetism of joy as the frequency of rapid manifestation. Finally, in the third part, we entered the Master's Workshop. We mastered the art of inspired action, learned to find the gift in the alchemy of failure, and tuned our tools not to force but to allow. And we integrated it all into the art of living the inversion. The war is over, not because you have defeated an external enemy, but because you have abandoned the battle against yourself. You have stopped fighting the current of the river of life. The law of reversal is not a technique that is applied. It is a state of being that is embodied. Living in the inversion is living in a state of grace. It is not a life without action, but it is a life where action flows from a place of alignment, not of anxiety. It is not a life without challenges, but it is a life where challenges are seen as recalibrations, not as punishments. It is not a life without desire, but it is a life where desire is a joyful game, not a desperate pursuit. You are no longer the rower who fights against the current, exhausting his strength in a futile battle. You have realized that you and the current are one. You are the flow. The desire of your soul and the universe's desire to express itself through you are the same and only song. Your journey of learning has ended. Your true life, a life of effortless power, begins now. Your practice is no longer a technique but a memory. In every moment, when you feel the old seductive temptation of effort, of struggle, of worry, pause, breathe, and remember the law of reversal. Let go, surrender. Assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, and watch how the universe rushes to serve the one who has stopped standing in his own way. Your question is no longer, how do I get it? Your question is, with how much grace can I allow it to arrive? If this metaphysical secret has ended your inner struggle and awakened the master of flow that resides within you, we invite you to continue this exploration. Subscribe to our channel, Path of Knowledge, for more wisdom that liberates. Like this video as a declaration of the end of your struggle. Share this knowledge with someone who needs to let go of the oars and trust the current. Thank you for your time, for your courage to unlearn, and for the brave decision to reclaim your birthright to a life of power, grace, and effortless creation. The struggle is over.